or guideline that people can actually follow as well. We have our first guest for this part of the show, who we would like to speak to, Natalie Viglione, who's a creative consultant and a implementation leader. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome to the Drive Time Show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me today.
Thank you so much for joining us today and speaking to us. Just to begin with, what does it mean to be materialistic, and why is it generally viewed in a negative light?
Well, I think that greed and materialism, they tend to go hand in hand. And, I think an easy definition of being quote-unquote materialistic is to just be preoccupied with possessions and the social image that they project. Having a focus on material things and trying to explain maybe love, for example, in terms of materialistic things, it's just a broken and twisted cycle that can keep people in a pretty negative space.
Is it egotistical to buy things that we don't actually really need, though, or if we even do need them, but we only need them for a little bit, and then we just want to buy them or purchase them, and then when we do have them, we don't really use them?
Yeah, I think ego is definitely a driver in this desire, and I've done a lot of personal development work on myself, and I've actually done a lot of research on the psychology around materialism and greed, and I don't think inherently that it's exactly egotistical per se to buy things that we don't need. It's really nice to have nice things and want to enjoy, the fruits of our labor. But I think that what can happen is, many people are really buying things for the sake of, saying, hey, look at me, and insert this new, object here, right?
Yeah.
So it's really gloating, and it's just ensuring that other people can notice how quote unquote successful they're being per se.
Yeah, that's interesting. The thing is or the question is, why are some people materialistic and other people not, despite the fact that they may even have the same amount of wealth, they might have the same amount of money, and also, does wealth? I mean, this is the $1 million question. Does wealth and material goods, can they buy happiness?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people, I think, that really like to, as that old saying goes, keep up with the Joneses, right? So it means they always want to look like they're being successful and really need to ensure that other people see them buying bigger things or new things to kind of level up the person down the block, so to speak. And it's a status thing. That's an ego driver. And that really is a way to make themselves look good on the outside, despite what may be happening on the inside, or behind closed doors. Also, that's a big thing too. And I think that we've seen this time and time again, and that is the $1 million question, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think the truth is, we know the honest answer. Happiness is not purchased through material things. We've seen this time. I mean, you've seen successful people, commit suicide, and you think, how in the world did that person get to that space? And having nice things, having lots of money, being comfortable is one thing, but there's a whole other side to this that really is kind of a darker path. And I don't think, honestly, that money and buying things is like a positive or negative energy inherently. But I think it is the behavior that's attached to those actions. So, there's actually, in my research, I found that there's so many studies that show that greed and materialism actually does lead down a dark path. And I've been there in my life. And, no matter what new car, new purse, or new shoe was purchased, it was like this momentary fleeting of, ooh, this feels good, and then, oh, well, whatever, it's in the closet now. What difference does it make? So, I think that, these studies, there's a lot of studies published in the Journal of Motivation and Emotion, and the studies showed that as people became more materialistic, their overall well-being diminished. So, their relationships, their autonomy, their sense of purpose, those diminished. But as they became less materialistic, their well-being, would rise. So there's a direct correlation there for sure.
Right. It's just that $1,000,000 question, isn't it? Can money buy happiness?
It is.
And
Right.
there's arguments on both sides, but from evidence that, as you just said as well, and I've seen a study as well, that the most unhappiest people in the world are the billionaires, because they're always competing with each other, I want more than so and so. But Natalie,
Right.
how has media, especially in the past decade, particularly social media, influenced materialism in the world today?
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, social media is kind of the worst.
Yeah.
Being in my space, I see this all the time. I mean, I live in the social realm. That's part of, the creative content and things that I create for clients. And, what I know is that there are so many false, inauthentic people that are on social media touting a life that is not real.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, the fake pictures of their picture perfect life, they all wear khaki colors every single day. How is that possible? It's not real.
Yeah.
And what the camera doesn't capture is the real truth behind it. And I think that there's a huge difference between, how a person handles their life, how they show up in the world, and a person that really wants to gloat and is that kind of human that is just seeking attention and glory. That's the behavior that really keeps people in this stress mode wrapped around materialism. And social media has become that place where people are doing that on a daily basis. And psychology around that shows that, people are more depressed because of what they're seeing on social media. Like, why doesn't my life look like that? But the truth behind all of that is that that's not the truth. And people aren't reminded of that frequently enough. And we get really obsessed and maybe possessed with this. Well, I just need to have that car to be successful like that person. And that's, again, it's that dark path that keeps us in a cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, you might see some celebrities, some YouTubers, with nice cars and good relationships, but in fact, we don't know what's going on behind the camera. So again, yeah, absolutely, you're completely right. And Natalie, is there a way in which materialism and free will could coexist? Because essentially, no one is obliged to be materialistic. It's all free will. Everyone has their own choice. So what do you think? Is there any way in which materialism and free will could coexist?
I've thought a lot about that, and I think so. But the truth of the matter is that it's not going to happen until people wake up. And everyone has to wake up individually, and it really will require healing. It will require, deep diving into personal development to really get to the core of why am I thriving off of what other people think of me or what I own. And, I can even use my own journey. So, I've done some deep diving for a very long time.
Right.
And I really had to strip materialism and that greedy bone out of my body. And this is something I have to check myself on all of the time. So it's an ongoing process. But I think that if humans would really focus on experiences instead of owning that material item, think of how the world could change, because free will is choice. And it is about our choices. So, like experiencing a new culture, a new city, a new way of life, going in to meet people. And obviously, the current times are a little crazy, but, we can still experience and not tie ourselves to 19 house mortgages and think, just living one paycheck away from financial ruin, just to have that thing. And I feel like if we could create experiences and get away from these, just ownership of things, that could greatly change, not only the person that's making that change, but also it would reflect in the world, because it's really a mirror, right? Humanity is a mirror of our individual choices.
Right.
So I think it can, but it's going to take a lot of individual work on each of our parts to change the way we look at this, I think.
Absolutely, definitely. Dr. Tariq Bajwa is on the line with us as well. He's our co-presenter. Does he have any questions for Natalie?
Natalie, obviously you have got a lot of experience and, so dealing with the people involved in materialism as well. So how do you, if at all, you advise people if somebody asks you that, I'm got like too much involved into this thing and I'm not satisfied and how can I get out of it, like getting too much involved into materialism?
Yeah, I think, the first question is to ask why. Where is this deep desire? Where is this coming from? Why? Where did it hit? Because the interesting thing is when you do some deep dive work into the soul, as we know, we think back to our childhood, and we think back to, well, what did I learn? Because oftentimes these behaviors are learned by seeing, our money behaviors are really learned when we're really young. And so we can think back to our parents. Okay, well, how did they act? And, for example, to bring my experience and my journey into the conversation, I look back at my parents who, often struggled. And so I had a very negative relationship with what money meant. So when I went on my materialistic, greedy, I just want to make more and more money, jumping up that corporate ladder just to get the bigger paychecks. And that's, I was on that journey. I had to smack myself in the face and say, wow, where is this coming from? Who are you trying to appease? What are you, buying that bottle of champagne? Who are you trying to impress? People around you or yourself, right? And the harsh answer was, it was me. It was my problem. It was my lack of ability to be able to have a healthy relationship with my surroundings and money in general, and let go of that materialistic energy to want to just consume so that other people could look at me and be like, wow, she's so successful, So it's about the deep dive inside to really look at that learned pattern and that behavior and that program that's running in the background and usually in the subconscious.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So when you realize that, then you change your behavior. That no, it's not going to give me this satisfaction I want, the contentment I want. So your attitude changes, isn't it?
Yes, and it's like this energetic shift, because you start to realize, and I'm a quote person, and I love looking at different quotes to see kind of how other people think about these things, and I really like Ralph Waldo Emerson and his quote. I kind of keep it close to me at all times, but he said, the purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. And I love that, because that also shifts you back into that perspective of, okay, I really want this thing, but I want this thing. Why do I want this thing? Why? What is the point of this? And if you come back to, is it really a purpose-driven, intentional, purchase, or am I just trying to have this thing because my friend whomever got it, or I saw some fancy schmancy thing on social media that got caught in my brain, and I want it because that person had it. So it's really checking yourself at the door every single time.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. Natalie, it's been a pleasure speaking to you this afternoon. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much once again.
So thank you so much, you guys. You have a lovely afternoon as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.